Good morning. Today we're going over chapter 3, section 4, system of equations with 3 variables. So how do we solve system of equations with 3 variables? It's the same exact way we would solve with 2 variables. Now, the only difference is that we will use a third one. So we have to cancel more than one problem in order to solve for this. So we have three equations here. How do we choose what we want to do? You got to figure out how you're going to, or which variable you want to eliminate. This one is saying it has a little hint that says a coefficient of 1 in the second equation makes y a good choice for elimination. Why does it make it a good choice? Because you have to multiply by smaller numbers. Now you can choose whatever numbers you'd like, but you have to multiply always or substitute different numbers. Now, I'm going to write down kind of the steps. The first step is to, I'm going to call it pairing. So pair equations to eliminate one variable. So in this case, I'm going to pair equation 1 and equation 2. So I'm going to rewrite it. So it's going to be 3x minus 2y plus 4z equals 35. And I'm going to pair 4x plus y minus 5z equals to negative 36. Since I chose to eliminate base using equation 2, I'm going to pair it off again with the other, with equation 3. Let's call this equation 1, equation 2, and equation 3. So how do I manage to make this cancel out? Well, I'm going to have to multiply this one by 2, and I'm going to have to multiply this one by 3. So when I do that, this is going to become 8x plus 2y minus 10z equals, now 36 times 2 will be negative 72. And now I'm able to add them. So it's going to be negative 3 minus 8, it's going to be negative 5x. The y's will cancel out. And then it's going to be negative 6z equals, and now we have negative 72 plus 35. It's going to give us negative 37. Now I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this. So it's going to be 12x negative plus 3y minus 15z equals, now 36 times 3 is going to be negative 108. Can go ahead and add. So we're going to do 12 and 5, one positive, one negative. It's going to give us negative 7x. The y's will cancel out. And then we have 15 and 3. It's going to give us negative 12z. And then we have negative 108 plus 31. So it's going to be negative 77. Now, after you get these two new equations, you're going to actually combine them. So I'm going to put them one on top of the other. So negative 5x minus 6z equals negative 37. And then negative 7x minus 12z equals negative 77. Now, you would combine them either by substitution or elimination, up to you. I'm going to actually go ahead and do elimination by multiplying the top one by negative 2. So that's going to give me positive 10x plus 12z equals positive 37 times 2 is 74. So I'm able to add. When I do this, I get 3x. The z's cancel out, and we get 77 minus 74 to give me negative 3. I'll divide by 3, and we get that x is equal to negative 1. Now you finish almost everything. What do I mean by almost everything? You have to now find y, and you have to now find z. So the first step, let's recap what we've found so far, is we pair the equation. The second step is solve the new equation. the new system. Now, how do I find my y and my z? I am going to choose any of the second set of equations that are in red. So I'm going to go ahead and do -5 times -1 minus 6z equals -37. So I will get 5 minus 6z equals -37. I'll subtract the 5 on both sides. So I will get 37 plus -5, or both being negative, is -42. I'll divide by -6, and we get that z is equal to 7. Now we have 2 out of the 3 variables. Now we have our x and we have our z. We're going to go ahead and plug it into, again, any of the original 3 equations. I'm going to choose the second one just because the y is by itself already. So I'm going to open a new slide. Okay, so I'm going to copy down the equations. So we had equation 1, which is 3x minus 2y plus 4z equals to 35. We have equation 2, which was -4x plus y minus 5z equals -36. And we have equation 3, which is 5x minus 3y plus 3z equals to 31. We found our x to be -1. We found our z to be equal to 7. So now we only need to find y. I'm going to use equation 2 just because y is already by itself. So I'm going to go ahead and plug in -4 times -1 plus y minus 5 times 7 equals to -36. So this becomes positive 4 plus y minus 35 equals -36. Now I'm going to go ahead and add the 35. It's going to be 4 plus y equals -1. I will subtract the 4, and we get y is equal to -5. So you have your x, your y, and your z. Now, what is the correct order of the solution? The solution, again, is going to be written in an order pair. The solution is going to be x, y, z. So it will be -1, comma, -5, comma, 7. This is your final answer. We have question 1a. We have 3 equations and 3 variables. All right. So I'm going to call this equation 1, just like last time, equation 2, and equation 3. Now, I think I am going to work with equation 3. Why? The z has a coefficient of 1, so it's going to make it easier. I'm going to pair them off, so I'm going to write -5x plus 3y minus z equals -17. And I'm going to do equation 3 and 1 here, so it's going to be 2x plus 4y minus 5z equals 18. And I'm going to rewrite again equation 3 and pair it off with equation 2. So it's going to be -3x plus 5y plus 2z equals -27. Now, why did I choose equation 3? Because if I multiply this equation by -5, I am able to get rid of the z's. So I'm going to get positive 25x minus 15y plus 5z equals, then 17 times 5 is going to be 85. And I can go ahead and combine these. So this will be 27x. This will be minus 11y. The z's will cancel out, and then we get 85 plus 18 will be 103. Now, I am going to multiply this equation by just 2. So I can get -10x plus 6y minus 2z equals 17 times 2 is going to be -34. You can go ahead and add. So this will be -13x plus 11y The z's will cancel, and then 34 and 27. It's going to be 34 and 27, both negatives, negative 61. Now I have, again, the two set of new equations, so I can go ahead and combine them. I will get 27x minus 11y equals 103. And then negative 13x plus 11y equals negative 61. This one turned out to be great. The y's already cancel out. So it will be 27 and 13. So I will get 14x. The y's cancel. And then I get 103 minus 61 to get 42. I will divide by 14. And I get x is equal to 3. So we found the first x. Now let's find y. I'm going to plug in right here, negative 13 times 3 plus 11y equals negative 61. 3 times negative 13 is negative 39 plus 11y equals negative 61. I'm going to go ahead and add 39 on both sides. And we get 11y equals negative 22. When I divide by 11, I end up with y is equal to negative 2. Now we found our x and our y. We got to find our z. I'm going to plug it back in. I'm going to plug it into equation 1. Again, doesn't matter which one you choose as long as you are consistent. So it's going to be 2 times 3 plus 4 times negative 2 minus 5z equals to 18. So this will be 6 minus 8 minus 5z equal 18. This will become negative 2 minus 5z equal 18. I'll add 2. So I'll get negative 5z equals 20. I'll divide by 5. And I end up with z is equal to negative 4. So again, my final answer is going to be in the form x, y, z. So it would be 3, comma, negative 2, comma, negative 4. So to start this one, again, I'm just going to number the equations just to be able to make it more easier when I teach it to you guys. I'm going to use equation 2 as the one I am going to get, that I'm going to use for both. So I'm going to say it's negative x plus 5y plus 4z equals 48. And I'm just going to write equation 1 right underneath it. And I'm going to go ahead and write negative x plus 5y, again, equation 2 on the other side. And I'm going to write equation 3 right underneath it. Now, after I do this, the reason I chose equation 2 is because of that x. The x has a coefficient of negative 1. It makes it a lot easier to solve. So I'm going to multiply this top one by 4. Which will give me negative 4x plus 20y plus 16z equals 48 times 4, which is 192. Now the x's cancel out when I go ahead and add them. It would be 17y, and then it's 16 plus 6, which is plus 22z, equals 192 plus 18, which is 210. I'm going to go ahead and multiply the other side by 6. So we'll get negative 6x plus 30y plus 24z equals 48 times 6, which is 288. I'm going to go ahead and add them. These cancel out. This will give me 28y plus, now 24 plus 5 is 29z equals 288. Now I'm going to go ahead and combine those two. So it's going to be 17y plus 22z equals 210. And then we have 28y plus 29z equals 288. Now there's no real number I can multiply, just one in order to get rid of the other. So what I'm going to do is I am going to multiply this equation by negative 28. And I'm going to multiply this one by 17. So when I do 17 times negative 28, it's it's going to be negative 476y. Minus 22 times 28, 616 equals 210 times negative 28, negative 5,880. And I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom. 28 times 17 is 476y. 29 times 17 is going to be plus 493z equals, and then 288 times 17 is 4,896. I'm going to go ahead and add them. The y's cancel out. We're left with the negative 616 minus 493, or well, plus 493, which that is going to give us negative 123z equals, and then negative 5880 plus 4896 is going to give us negative 984. We're going to divide by negative 123, and we're going to get that z is equal to positive 8. Now, after I find z, I'm going to go ahead and plug it back in. I'm going to plug it in into this equation. So it's going to be 17y plus 22 times 8 equals 210. So it's going to be, again, 17y plus 22 times 8, which is going to be 176, equals 210. I'll subtract 176 from 210. That's going to give me 17y is equal to 34. When we divide by 17, we end up with y is equal to 2. So we have our we have our z, we have our y, and I'm going to go ahead and plug it into this third equation in order to find our x. So that's going to be 6x minus 2 times 2 plus 5 times 8 equals 0. So that's going to be 6x minus 4 plus 40 equals 0. 6x plus 36 equals 0. I'll subtract 36 on both sides. I'll get 6x is equal to negative 36. I'll divide by 6 on both sides and get x is equal to negative 6. Again, your answer is in the x, y, z form. So my answer is going to be negative 6, comma 2, comma 8. This will be my final answer. All right, so for this one, it's going to be a little different. Because there's no variable that is just a coefficient of 1, we're just going to have to choose a variable that we want to get rid of. I'm going to pair them off 1, 2, and then 2 and 3, just because there's really no rhyme or reason right now to it. So I'm just going to write them together. All right, so I am going to decide what variable do I want to get rid of. I am thinking I'm going to get rid of x, just because in both equations I have positives and negatives for the x. So what does that mean? I'm going to multiply the entire thing here by 4 and 5 for the bottom. So this will become 20x plus 16y minus 20z equals negative 40. And this will become negative 20x minus 50y minus 40z equals negative 80. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and add them. The x's cancel. So then I get 50 and 16. It's going to be negative 34y minus 60z equals negative 120. All right. Let's see what the right one is. Again, I have to get rid of the same variable, so I'm going to go ahead and multiply this one by 6 and this bottom one by 4. So it's going to be negative 24x minus 60y minus 48z equals 16 times 6. It's going to be 96, but it's negative. So it'll be 24x plus 15 times 4 is 60, y, plus 12 times 4 is 48, z, and this equals 24 times 4, which is 96. I'm going to go ahead and add them. The x cancel out, the y does 2, the z does 2, and the 96 does 2. So we have 0 is equal to 0. Now, since we got 0 equal to 0, and then we have an equation on the other side, we can't really keep going. So it is all real numbers for these two together, for 3 and 2, but we can't really do anything with this one. So we have to figure out if we can solve 1 and 3, because we did 2 and 1 and they didn't cancel out. So we're going to have to try 1 and 3. So 2 and 3 is a bad combination when it comes to this because it's the same equation. So I'm going to go ahead and do 1 and 3 to try it out. 5x plus 4y minus 5z equals negative 10. 6x plus 15y plus 12z equal to 24. I'll multiply this top one by negative 6 and this bottom one by positive 5. So I will get negative 30x minus 24y plus 30z equals 60. This will be 30x plus 15 times 5 is 75. 75y plus 12 times 5, it's going to be 60. Z equals 24 times 5, which is 120. I'm going to go ahead and add them. The x cancels out. I'm going to write it up here. It's going to be 24 and 75, so that's going to be negative 51. Y plus 90z equals 180. Now, since we're doing 1 and 3, and I got rid of the x, and I did 1 and 2 right here, we can use these two system of equations to keep going. So I'm going to go ahead and actually erase the all real numbers portion for the time being. So I am going to use the negative 34y minus 60z equals negative 120. And then negative 51y plus 90z equals 180. Now there's nothing I can multiply right off the bat to be able to cancel each other out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply this one by 90 and then this one by 60. So 34 times 90 is negative 3060y minus 60 times 90 is 5400z equals 90 times 120 is negative 10,800. Now, if you guys see, they cancel out again, so we get 0 is equal to 0. Now, we end up with all real numbers again. Now, why didn't I stop after we got it the first time? I didn't stop because I wanted to show you guys that we can get the same solution many different ways. Now, as soon as you get one equation to equal all real numbers, you can just say this equation is all real numbers. But I was trying to prove it a different way so you guys could see we could do it both ways.